For the second time this year, heavy rain causes a flash flood in Dunearn Road, leaving it impassable. Caught on video the moment a fireball erupted from a manhole in Bukit Batok West this morning. And get ready to cheer on Team Singapore. The Paralympic Games begin today in Tokyo. Good evening, you're watching The Big Story coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Haryanto Diman. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. It was a soggy start to the day for many of us, and for about 40 minutes this morning, a stretch of Dunearn Road between Sim Darby Centre and Binjai Park was impassable. According to National Water Agency PUB, it was due to a flash flood that parts of Dunearn Road became impassable at 10:08 a.m. Quick response officers were deployed to render assistance, and water levels eventually subsided at about 10:50 a.m. Other areas were at risk of flash floods, including the Upper Bukit Timah area, Woodlands and Sunset Drive. PUB said that the heaviest rainfall recorded during a 3-hour period this morning in Bukit Panjang was 159.88 millimeters, which is more rain than normally falls in the whole month of August. Science and Environment correspondent Audrey Tan joins me now to shed light on this. Welcome to the show, Audrey. This is the second time this year that a flash flood has occurred in Dunearn Road near Sim Darby Centre. The first was on April 17th. Heavy rain caused a similar incident as well. Why is the area seeing a repeat of flooding, Audrey? And is there anything done to mitigate the risks of such an occurrence from happening again?
So this particular area that saw flash floods today is historically known to be flood prone. So that area, I guess, it's pretty much low-lying compared to other areas. And when you have heavy rain, like what happened in April and again today, you will see flash floods. I think the incidents are also happening amid ongoing works to widen and deepen the Bukit Timah Canal, which is in the area. And when completed, the Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment did say that when this is done by 2024, the maximum water level in this section of the canal is expected to be 1 meter lower for the same rainfall intensity that we saw back in April. Back in April, the heavy rain was caused by two different types of weather phenomena, a Sumatra squall, as well as the effects of a storm brewing off the Philippines. For today's rain, I'm still waiting for updates from NEA about the cause of the heavy rain today, but they did warn that throughout the second fortnight of August, we will be expecting more rain than usual because the monsoon rain band is hovering over our region.
On that, Audrey, thundery showers, like you said, are expected for the rest of August. So what are Singapore's defences to guard against flooding with more rain expected?
So Singapore is adopting a multi-pronged approach to dealing with flooding. National Water Agency has a resource pathway receptor approach. So pathways are what we can expect with our drains and our canals. This is what channels the water from areas into our reservoirs and all that. Source approaches would be the installation of, like, for example, detention tanks on buildings, and receptor pathways would also be things like rain gardens along the side of riverbanks. So because nature can absorb more water compared to a concrete floor. So that is supposed to help reduce the runoff into our drains. But I guess it's also worth noting that there is a limit to how much we can deepen and widen our drains by. National Water Agency is also working with NUS now to develop a model that can better predict flooding events due to heavy rain and also due to sea level rise. And that model would probably help with how we can plan for such future events in the future. But as of now, we are not really seeing any impacts of climate change on our rainfall yet, although climate scientists have warned that if nothing is done to stop more emissions going to the atmosphere, we can expect to see bouts of heavier rain in the future. So these are just some strategies that Singapore is trying to reduce our instances of flooding events here in Singapore.
Thank you, Audrey, for the insights. That was Science and Environment correspondent Audrey Tan. Meanwhile, investigations are underway following an explosion from a manhole in Bukit Batok West today. Now, you would have seen this clip circulating on social media this morning, a dashcam video footage that showed the explosion occurring on the ground floor of the estate's multi-story car park. According to the Singapore Civil Defence Force, the incident did not lead to a fire and there was no reported injury. Preliminary investigations indicate that the incident is accidental in nature. Police officers as well as personnel from the SCDF and utilities company SP Group were at the site when ST arrived at 11 a.m. Bricks were scattered around the explosion site, which had been cordoned off. MP for the area, Dr. Amy Kaur, was also at the scene and said that the Town Council has activated all relevant agencies to check all the manholes in the area. Following the completion of the psychiatric assessment of the River Valley High School student charged with murder, the 16-year-old will be further remanded for a week at the police cantonment complex. Revealing this in court today with the teenager appearing via video link, the prosecution added that the police will make arrangements for his family to speak to him. The teenager was charged on July 20th with the murder of a 13-year-old schoolmate at a toilet in the school the previous day. The case is adjourned to August 31st. All 62 COVID-19 cases detected among migrant workers from the North Coast Lodge dormitory have been fully vaccinated. The Manpower Ministry told the Straits Times that the first 3 cases were detected through rostered routine testing and at the same time wastewater tests showed viral fragments. The confirmed cases are mostly asymptomatic or have mild symptoms and have been moved to a healthcare facility for further care and treatment. All residents of the dorm will also be tested frequently over the next few weeks. Now, quick update on Singapore's vaccination progress. As at August 22nd, 78% of the population have completed the full vaccination regimen and 82% have received at least 1 dose. Now, here's the breakdown of fully vaccinated people by their age groups. 89% of seniors 60 to 69 years old, indicated by the light grey line, and 82% of those 70 and up, represented by the dark grey line, are fully vaccinated. And last night, the Health Ministry reported another death due to COVID-19 complications, the 13th person to have died this month. She was an 86-year-old Singaporean who was unvaccinated and had a history of cancer and high blood pressure. Singapore's virus death toll now stands at 50. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris said today the country has offered to host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting in 2023. This, as America's economic outlook is a critical part of advancing an optimistic vision of its partnership with the region. Vice President Harris also spoke about the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and the ongoing evacuation operation in Kabul.
We are laser-focused on the task at hand. And we are extremely grateful to our men and women in uniform and embassy staff who are on the ground as we speak, making this historic airlift happen in an incredibly difficult and dangerous environment. And we are grateful to our international partners for standing with us and working with us to meet this challenge, including Singapore.
Well, in other headlines today, it's time to cheer on Team Singapore once again. 10 athletes will be flying our flag high, competing across 6 sports at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games, which begin today. The message from Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong: our Paralympians have sacrificed and worked hard to to make it to this pinnacle event for sports. Not only have they trained relentlessly, but they have spent their lives overcoming people's expectations of the differently abled. Now they will represent Singapore at the Paralympics. Whatever the results may be, I know you'll all make us all proud. Let's go, Team Singapore. In his commentary piece, Assistant Sports Editor Rohit Brijnath wrote, "These games that start today are, quote, not some fun pastime. The Paralympics are a high-tech, high-performance congregation of the highly motivated." Rohit joins me now to share more. Hi, Rohit. Rohit, tell us the power of the Paralympic Games and the message the Games put across.
Look, I see these games as two things. I see it firstly as a contest. I think it is a high performance contest. I think the athletes here practice as hard, are as nervous, use some terrific equipment. As I wrote in my column today, that Tatiana McFadden, who's one of the greatest wheelchair racers ever, in 2016, she was using a wheelchair made by BMW, which I thought was kind of cool. But it's also a movement, and I think it's a movement that's growing. In 1960, at the first Paralympics, you had 400 participants. This time, you have 4,400, and they have a very powerful voice. I think this game speaks about the power of sport, and I've had a lot of Paralympians over the years talk to me about how just playing gives confidence, and I think competition is found purpose. So I think many things are happening through sport. It just talks about the power of sport. I think the other message, and this is what Yip Pinsu, the Singapore's fantastic Paralympic swimmer who's won 3 gold, she told me the other day that the message she thinks is about try, and I think this message about trying is something that she understands very well, because she suffers from a degenerative disease. She's always growing weaker in a sense, and she was bullied when she was young, and she still fights. I mean, she's going for her 4th Paralympics, and as I said, she's won 3 gold medals. So it's remarkable. And one of the things she told me when we were talking about why people should watch this game, she said, if you don't see something, you don't understand it. You don't understand how competitive Paralympians are unless you watch these games. You don't realize how able they are till you watch these games. And she said that if you look at somebody who you don't know, then you only tend to look at their disability. But at these games, you see something different. You see that the disability is not as limiting in the way that you think it is. And so I understand. So I think there's a diversity of messages. And I think this is an incredibly inclusive games. And I look forward, as usual, to watching.
That's right. Rohit, all eyes will be on the veteran athlete, like you mentioned, Pinshu, and you spoke to her as well in your piece. How are her preparations for the Games?
So Pinshu is, without question, my favorite athlete in Singapore. I mean, she's remarkable. I've been to watch her practice. She speaks so well. So I think this time is her 4th Games. I think she hasn't competed for a very long time, as a lot of Paralympians haven't. And I think what happens then is it makes you just a little bit more nervous, because you haven't been, the more you compete, the more ready you feel. And I think the less you compete, then you're just unsure where you are compared to the rest of the world. But I think she trains really hard. She uses more sports science now than she's ever done. And I think she just likes competition. I think she's a person who obviously rises to meet the moment. I'm not saying that she's going to win. I cannot say that. But the fact that she's won 3 gold medals tells you this is somebody who knows how to meet the moment. And I think that's very important. And I think the other thing that what she does is, I think what she's doing every time by competing and going and doing well and trying is, I think she's changing mindsets. And I think that's one of the things I talked about in my piece, is that she travels, of course, by herself in taxis. And she says there are some taxi drivers who perhaps a little old fashioned, who think she should be at home doing nothing and she shouldn't be out on her own. But she's finding more and more that taxi drivers who recognize her and ask her more questions about her training and realize that she was going to the Paralympics. And she likes that, because that means that she is changing minds.
Well, thank you so much, Rohit, for the sharing. I've been speaking to Assistant Sports Editor Rohit Brijnath on the Paralympic Games, which kick off today. Now, you can get the latest on the Games on straitstimes.com. A quick look overseas. Across the causeway, Malaysia's Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob said opposition leaders would not be appointed to his new cabinet and that he would announce its members later this week after the king consents to his proposed lineup. Mr. Ismail's comments came after his maiden speech on Sunday, where he emphasized cooperation across the political divide and invited opposition leaders to join in the effort to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic. But now he said the new federal government would not be a unity government. On who would be his deputy, Gombak MP Azmin Ali was poised to assume the role, according to sources in Bersatu and UMNO. And those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. Join me tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.